Audrey Chirenje. I'm wearing red.
Orange.
I think it's a shade of red, but I think with those people who know colors, maybe it's burnt orange or something like that.
Or bright orange or whatever it is. Tell me what color I'm wearing, guys. What color am I wearing? It looks like the same as this book, actually. I don't know if you put it together. And this is the book that we're going to be discussing this morning. It's called The Marshal Law. Now, this book is by Marshal Shonhai. And this is like a manual of how to have an event such as weddings. I know Marshall has been in this for over 2 decades now. And he's just sat down, frustrated as heck. And he says, I'm going to write a book of how to really tell people, Shad, this is what you need to do. So tell us about this book, Audrey. What is this martial law all about?
So I think, first of all, I think it's a fantastic book. In other countries, UK, US, weddings are $1 billion industry. And people take them so seriously. But I know in our country, if you go to the wedding venues, surprisingly enough, they're booked throughout the year.
Yeah.
But then we don't take, magazines, books seriously as other countries do. So I think for Marshall to pen this book, well done to you. He's got over 2 decades experience, like you said. So I think for those people who want to tie the notes, for service providers, they must also read the book because there are do's and don'ts, and he's using his experience to write this book.
And yes. I think service providers, planners and things, and even guests, because there's a little note at the back, and then I think the last thing that he says on this was, thou shalt go home. So sometimes you'll find that odd guest who's just dancing and dancing and dancing, and this is the last one, commandment number 10 in the book. He says, thou shalt go home. Go home. Don't overstay a wedding. And some of these themes and things that he talks about this book, he's talking about how to plan a wedding properly. Sometimes you see a wedding and say, no, it's very nice. How do you plan a wedding properly, really?
So he's talking about their options that he put across. If you can afford it, just get a wedding planner because they've got so much experience. They know the do's and don'ts. And also, interestingly, he puts a timeline to say if it's a year in advance, this is what you need to do.
Wow.
If it's, say, 3 to 4 months before, this is what you need to do. 2 weeks, 1 week, things like that.
So what's the basic timeline? Like if I'm getting married in, well, I don't know, when do I start planning my wedding? If I want to get married in July or whatever next year, do I start planning 2 years before or 2 months before? What is his views on that?
So he actually puts a comment to say there is no rule cast in stone because it all depends. And it also depends on your budget, your family, your finances. He stresses all these points. And also I like the fact that there's one chapter he says, till death do us part.
Yeah.
Because I think more often we as a people, we like to live within our means.
Yes.
Over our means. And
yeah.
he's saying we need to live within our means. So you find that you can easily have a wedding at the court.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can do that. Then have a family lunch at home in your garden.
Yeah.
Your daughter can bake the cake or whatever. And then it will be a low-cost budget. So it all depends on what you want.
I mean, I want a fairy tale wedding. But, I know I won't be able to afford it. One thing that chilled me one year was when somebody asked me and said, oh, please can I have $100? So I was just like, well, so how are you going to take care of your wife if you're going to be asking people for Marirora? And I know he talks about lobola issues as well.
He does. And he's got a chapter on focusing on the bride and saying, he's got 5 types of brides. There's the bridezilla.
Wow.
There's the know-it-all. There's the one who's like, oh, I've been to the diaspora. I know everything. Then there's a chapter also to the grooms because he's saying men more often don't want to be involved. They leave everything to the woman. But he's saying if you're going to be together, and this is the start of planning an event together. You need to be involved in this thing.
In the whole thing.
And also talking about the finances, because if you're not involved, how then do you determine what is spent and what not?
Yeah.
Then there's also a topic on the parents and other stakeholders.
Yes, that are involved in.
They are those parents with money, and they want to dictate everything that happens.
But what happens then? So this is my question. If my mom or my dad want me to have the best wedding ever, can they not just pay for the whole thing?
They can, but then it's the overbearing and then now putting, conditions to that.
Right, conditions. That's what I wanted to pull out.
Conditions. Because even on the planning, he talks about how you need to have a guest list. I think it's the first 3 things that you need to have is the guest list and have it ready. So this one, obviously, you consult your parents and put other stakeholders. But he says, you mentioned the word fairy tale. There's a part where he says, it's not your wedding because everyone thinks it's my day. It's actually not your day. It's their day.
Whose day is it?
The other stakeholders, the parents,
Right.
the friends, and everyone else.
But is that the way? Is that what it should be, though? Is it for them that I'm getting married, or is it for me?
The reality is, so you can plan and say, I want this and whatever, but guess what? Half of the time, the things you would have planned might not happen to the exact way that it happened.
You want to.
Exactly. So I think most of the frustrations come from this point that it's my day, so things must go my way. You have to make some concessions, some compromises.
And one thing, though, Audrey, I find, you can have any kind of wedding that you go to. I feel like it's still just the same thing. Do you know what I mean? The bride walks down the aisle, then they get married, the facilitator's sorting that out. After that, everybody's moved, pictures are taken, and then people are dancing and eating and then go home. Is that, diversification for me, I'm looking at it. Is there another way to really hold a wedding a different way than what we know? Is that the standard template of how weddings should be run?
There is no template. And
Right.
I've also seen a few interesting weddings. I'm sure you saw this video that went viral where the bride was dancing and doing her thing. Because I don't know why people assume that you have to behave in a certain way.
Yeah, there's like...
Even the colors, and I think there's this whole, as a culture, we don't want to be original. Just be original. Like what Marisa is saying, ultimately it's your day, so do what you like.
Yeah, have your own. I'm looking at this beautiful picture in chapter 8, and it's talking about venue selection. Okay, venue selection I think is so important because you have to cater for everything. Obviously sanitation, ablution blocks, the shelter if it starts raining or whatever it is. Tell us more about things when you are selecting a venue.
So also the venues, some of them actually come with contracts whereby you actually need to sign on the dotted line. And like some of the things you mentioned, what about power backup? What about accessibility to the guests? So you mentioned on the last 2, he talks about 10 commandments to the host and then 10 commandments to the guests. Thou shalt go home. So you find that there's been a call, maybe the venue's in Amundstall, and then the people are staying in Glenview. And then now the first call has been made for people to catch the bus. If you miss the bus, how are you going to go home?
Exactly.
There are no public transport in
Amundstall at 12 midnight. Oh my goodness, you'll be stuck. Hey.
Yeah, so things like that on your venue selection, you also need to consider other stakeholders.
And it's so good. I love how he's actually teaching people how to behave. Some people say, I'll do whatever I want. And you're so right. What if you get stuck in Amundstall? Do you know what I mean? And this is it just brings, now the bride has to figure out, was there an accident or whatever? So it's very important. I love these commandments. I think let's just read some of them. It says how to be a good host, right? So commandment number 1 is saying, thou shalt be explicit. Okay. Commandment number 2, thou shalt receive, welcome thy guests. Number 3, thou shalt not embarrass thy guests. Wow. Embarrassment. Have you ever seen an embarrassment at a wedding?
I like the one he says, thou shalt not traumatize the guests. And he talks about how you can't be giving people food, Yeah, read that.
So as a couple, you know how your friends and relatives and how they socialize. There's actually no need to traumatize them by the many forks and glasses. Because I do know some tables have the knife, the napkin, the small little fork, the three forked fork, and you're thinking, okay, what is this one for? Deer fish? No, this one is for butter. Yeah, that is actually quite traumatizing.
One fork, one knife might actually do.
So the simple key here is keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Classy. That's it.
Keep it simple, classy, neat, clean.
Yes.
Good colors. Very good. I mean, okay, we've spoken about being a good host. Now, being a good guest. I mean, I know my favorite one was thou shalt go home, because people do want to go home. And thou shalt RSVP. A lot of people don't RSVP and then they just show up. How do you deal with that situation?
And also there's the one controversial one, no children involved. So the card,
this is very controversial now, yeah.
Clearly says no children. And obviously they'll be considering other factors. And then you bring your child. And then you now want other people to look after your child. We need to be considerate.
So if I have my baby, maybe I'm a single mom and I want to be at this wedding and I don't trust many people with a little baby, what do I do? Do I bring a maid? Or should I just not attend the wedding? What would you advise in that?
So I think I've been in one of these. I was part of the committee to one of my friends' wedding, and I remember my middle child was small at that point. So I remember I actually told her in advance to say, you know what, I'm part of the committee and I've got a small baby. I'm going to bring her. And I did bring my helper, like you're saying, yes.
Yeah, and I think if you can do that, communication is always so important in any event like this. If you can actually say, look, if you can bring your maid, yeah, bring your children, because it is nice to actually be at ease when you are out there enjoying yourself, especially for maybe single parent homes that don't have any carer. So, I mean, Marshall has done this incredible book, and I know that he's very staunch in the way that he does things. He's done weddings. What else has he done?
Events. He used to be in a dance group, Christian dance group, way back in the day. He's also heavily involved in music.
He's very good. He's very good at stuff that he does. So I'm looking at this martial law and I'm looking at what Marshall has written us. Does it live up to the standard? The things that he talks about?
It actually does, and according to me, I was actually excited. I'm now always trying to find diverse books. So this book, I believe it's a good book for Zimbabwe, and then it should be found in all the shops, you know, wedding gown shops, where they sell the tuxedos. This is a must-have book for anyone who wants to actually have a wedding.
Okay, and is he writing some more stuff?
He is. In the last pages of his book, he's got 2 books coming out.
Oh, nice.
Rora and then Holy Cow.
Their payday.
Yes, and then Holy Cow and the church.
The chapel and the cake. What is that about? That's an interesting topic.
Yeah, that one I have no idea. But looking at the cover, I think he's just talking.
It's the controversial issue as well. Like you were talking about controversial on children, talking about, okay, marriage the Christian way, marriage the Lobola way, the Zimbabwean way.
Exactly.
What is a marriage? What do we deem as a marriage? So this is quite exciting. Some chapters and some topics really that people don't talk about. But, you know, just going back to the involvement, I think how you said the groom and the bride should take part in this thing together. I've seen a lot of... what is it? A baby? What is it? A baby welcome? Not baby welcome. It's a bridal shower.
Bridal shower,
and
yes.
It's just girls. But I do know that there's a certain pastor of mine who got married, and they actually had it together.
Together, yes, I saw that.
Yeah,
and I thought that was very nice.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because you know, some of these bridal showers, there's some ladies who want to talk about teaching you how to do things and stuff. What really should be involved in hosting a bridal shower?
Let's even talk about the men. What do they call them? These nights that they have, and they bring all sorts of people there. So I always find
a bachelor party.
Bachelor
yes,
party.
That's it.
I always find it funny that, you know, a bridal shower for the bride, it's people teaching your speeches and stuff. But the bachelor party, they're just drinking and partying, and no one is imparting any knowledge to the guy.
Yeah.
So that's how come you find that. I always feel that the girl child, there's so much burden on her shoulders for her to do this and do that, while on the other side, the man just gets away with
anything that they want to. So it's actually good that they come together. I think society has really dictated how things should be done, to be fair. A lot of people just see it this way. Yeah, let's do it because people are more gravitated toward that. So I think, I mean, just looking at some of these topics in the martial law, I think this book is actually something to sit down. Yes, very controversial issues, something good to talk about over a cup of coffee or whatever it is. So it's actually a little bit of a good read. Where do we find this book, Audrey?
Okay, for now, Marshal is saying he will arrange delivery, whether it's in the UK, Australia, whatever, by himself. And then even locally, he's selling the books by himself. But Marshal, this is a plea to you. Please get the book in the bookstores. People want to go and get the book. And also even online on Amazon, because other people just want to buy a Kindle version of the book and read, because this is such a good book. Zimbabwe and other people deserve.
They need to get their hands on this one. I know Candice is a big advocate of Amazon and putting it online so that people can have access. And yes, Marshall, we agree with Audrey. Please, let's get this book out there in the bookstores. It's looking fantastic and well done. $25, you said it is?
Yes, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Because there are pictures in the book. He says he got consent from the people.
And I know some of these
you've identified
marriages, some of
some
these
of the
people in there, which brings and involvement. I mean, he's really into getting people involved in the work that he does. So yes, that's fantastic. If I'm going to find Marshal, where do I find him? Do I call him? Do I find him on social media? What do I do?
He's on all social media platforms, Marshal Shonhai, and he's a very popular figure. So many followers, yes.
They know him. So it's Marshal Shonhai. That's on all social media platforms. That's your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whichever it is, he's on there. So please make sure that you get in touch with Marshal so that he can hand deliver this book or send it to you, whether you're in the UK, in the States, wherever you are. This book is a great read, The Marshal Law. Audrey, thank you so much for joining us, and this has been a fantastic talk over this book.
Thank you, and you're looking lovely in your orange dress.
In my orange dress, and I say yes, thank you, it is orange. Maybe you say it's red, but you know what? It's Choose to be Awesome Tuesday. We're just awesome.